We recently got a release date trailer for V Rising, and it reveals some pretty interesting details about the game. So in this video, I'm going to give my thoughts on the reveal, as well as give a comprehensive overview of the details we've been given about the massive updates coming with the 1.0 release.
For centuries, our castles lay forgotten in ruin. Our kind hidden in darkness. Until now. We will rise from the shadows.
We know from earlier dev posts that this is the new zone, the ruins of Mortium, which is an extension of the current region in the east named the Hollowed Mountains. However, since this is the full release of the game, I'm sure they'll be changing up the pre-existing zones quite a bit like they did in the Gloomrot update. This could mean just changing base locations a bit and fleshing out some of the new zones a bit more like they did in Gloomrot, or some more major changes, we're not really sure yet. But they are certainly adding a ton of new systems and gameplay mechanics, so I wouldn't be surprised if the old world zones like Dunley and Farben Woods get some pretty major changes as well.
Their blood will become our power. Vampires will conquer the night, and all who oppose us.
Another quick thing to mention is that since this is the full release of V Rising, Stunlock Studios will likely target advertising towards new players quite a bit. I think that's why we're seeing the old zones here. They just want to show the game in its entirety.
You who dare challenge my rule, defy my reign, and face devastation. Know my name. Fear my wrath. For I am Dracula.
Well, there it is. We're finally meeting Dracula, and we'll be doing that sooner than I thought, May 8th. Now, there are actually a couple big details in this trailer that I think are pretty easy to miss. First off, in the first shot, we hear Dracula talking about how we've been hidden in the shadows and no longer will we be hidden. And when that happens, we get a blood moon. I'll come back to that in a minute. This update will add an entire new zone to explore, which will be called the Ruins of Mortium. A frostbound mountainous region with new enemy types and V-Blood units to encounter. Referencing this shot from the trailer, it's likely we'll come across a new major city within this region that rivals Civilite City itself. A new highly dense loot area where PvP encounters are likely and perhaps new merchants will reside. Eventually, we'll come across the decrepit castle of Dracula himself, a shadow of what once was the greatest castle in Vardaran, in ruins and tucked away deep in the mountains. As we approach, Dracula mocks us from the shadows, and a veil is lifted within the castle, revealing an imposing throne room and the man himself. The colors then switch from cold blues and grays to a bloody red glow. An aesthetically pleasing artistic choice? Perhaps, but maybe also a hint. It will make more sense with a new gameplay system I cover later in the video, but I'm going to speculate that this boss arena will reveal itself during blood moons. Sort of like a barrier of entry, like what we had with Adam the Firstborn, and the EMPs to disable his gates. They also show us a pair of vampires fighting their way through the various regions of Vardaran. In this 1.0 release of the game, they are fundamentally changing the leveling experience. Let's look at the new spell point system. In the beta version of V Rising, killing a V-Blood unit or boss would award you with a specific spell, as well as some other miscellaneous goodies. Now you'll be awarded a spell point within that spell tree, allowing you to then purchase a specific spell that you want, rather than waiting until the endgame for that spicy spell you enjoy using so much. For me, that's Soulburn. As you progress through the game, the tougher bosses will award more spell points, allowing you more purchasing power. However, it appears that you can save these points early and buy a more advanced spell, like I said, Soulburn or Void, closer to the early game. There will also be a new research table concerning spell progression, in the form of the Stygian Altar. This table allows you and your clan to target specific passive effects you're interested in. For example, I'll be playing with two friends. One enjoys summoner builds with Death Knight, and the other, like me, is a Soulburn enjoyer. So it would be beneficial for all of us to target and unlock a powerful passive ability within the Unholy spell tree. Now we've arrived at my second favorite part of this update, character customization. They are completely overhauling the gear in the game, allowing us to specify certain archetypes at each gear level. For example, you'll have a tanky melee version of a set, a caster version, and a rogue or assassin version of a set. Not only will they look different, but they'll have a specific set bonus to help you dive deeper into that class fantasy. And it doesn't stop there. We'll also be able to dye our armor to look however we want. That is so sick. I can already imagine you deciding on a color scheme for your clan, almost like a guild tabard in some other games, or just customizing your character to look exactly how you want them to. This is such a cool update. I'm a big fan of transmog competitions, if you're familiar with those from WoW, and I'm sure people will come up with some really cool, unique looking sets. Now moving on to some quality of life adjustments. They're going to make it easier than ever for us to move our castles, which is a huge time saver. Previously, you would have to take down all your walls, all the chests and entities within your castle, then delete your castle heart and haul everything over to your new location. It was ridiculous. So this would put you at risk of losing everything and being incredibly tedious. So this is a really nice quality of life adjustment. They've also said they're changing how crafting actually happens, making it easier and more convenient. This will include UI changes, the ability to pin recipes, and quote-unquote new storage options, whatever that means. But they have said they're not going to do craft from stash, which personally I think they should add. I think that's just so good. Or something like in Terraria, where you can have a local inventory. You basically just go into your castle, and there are some modded servers that do this. But you can just go into your castle, hit a button, and then it auto sorts stuff from your inventory into the storage containers locally around your character. There's another addition on the gear topic called artifacts, and then we'll move on to maybe the most important and my favorite part of the update. But first off, artifacts. According to a Q&A they did with developer Jeremy Beerson and content creators Grim and Soloku, they are static named weapons with predetermined stats and ability alterations. Custom made from the dev team, so I'm sure these will be incredibly strong and sought after, true legendary weapons. I think it would also be awesome if these items were extremely rare, making them that much more exciting to find and farm for, which would just be another good endgame piece of content for you to farm out and get you out in the world, experiencing PvP and seeing other players. One of the biggest criticisms of V-Rising has been the endgame content, or lack thereof. For a PvP player, this was mostly the shards. Unique structures drop from 3 of the game's hardest bosses, which you could then take to your base and interact with for a buff to your vampire. The endgame content would revolve around sieging another clan's base for their shards, or defending your own shards. There was a lot of fair criticism to how this actually worked, and I'm not going to really get into that in this video, since it's sort of a Pandora's box. but I think we can all be happy that the shard system is being completely changed. They will no longer be physical structures that you set up in your honeycombed, nightmarish, backrooms looking base. They'll be a piece of gear, specifically neck enhancement, meaning roaming around the world with the shard necklace, you'll be in constant danger, and you'll become a point of interest for other players to look out for. To counteract the possibility of holding up in your base and playing like a literal rat, which certainly is a non-zero portion of this player base, as you know, you'll have to recharge your necklace to prevent it from disappearing, allowing anybody to go and claim a new necklace shard from the endgame bosses. Here, I'm going to draw back to my initial observation about Dracula and his castle from the animation. As I said, his castle physically changes, being washed over with a sort of blood red color scheme, exactly like a blood moon. My prediction is that the blood moon event will actually open up Dracula's castle and allow you to not only fight him, but also charge your necklace within his castle. This would mean you would know where and when the shard holders will be there, giving an opportunity for ambitious vampire clans to ambush you and claim the title of shard holders in a much more natural way than before. I think this would be incredibly healthy for the game. I myself played on an RPG server for quite some time called Vampire Survivors, and one of the best features of that server was world bosses, unique boss fights that would take place in the Colosseum in Dunley, and everybody in the server would come and either fight the boss or fight each other, all to try to get powerful drops from the boss. In our case, it was tier 4 spell gems and onyx tiers, but in this case, it could be a necklace itself or the charging of a pre-existing necklace. Anyways, that about does it for what I wanted to cover regarding V Rising's full release, at least for now. I'm sure we'll get some more information as we get closer to that final release date, but there's plenty of subject matter already to be excited about. I've been Regulus, thanks for sticking around if you still are. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the changes we're getting and things you're excited about or even worried about. Anyways, have a great day. See you all in Voterin.